as we go forward today and into this week, help us to remember that you are there. Help us in the ways we think and the things that we intend, the things that we try to accomplish. Thanks for being with us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Lord, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Amen. Please rise. Open your worship brochures. Top of the second page is our recitation that we'll say together this morning. This is taken from the first chapter of Joshua. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have great success. You can see it. I like doing things. Do you like doing things? When I was little, I liked learning how to ride a bike. Have either of you learned how to ride a bike yet? You learned how to ride a bike?
But they have training wheels.
Yeah.
That they fail.
Right. So training wheels is usually the way we start learning how to ride, right? Good. Okay, so I like learning how to ride a bike. Yesterday I was in my house and I wanted to put a new light in our new pantry, and that was a project that I liked doing. Can you tell me something that you like to do? Something that you like to do. Is there anyone else who always thinking?
Working with my dad.
Doing what with your dad?
Doing some, when I'm here, and some, when the Wednesday goes about his house, or if he has some work he wants to do with me, I ask my mom if I can do it with him.
That's good. Did he say work? He has some work that he wants to do with you. You ask your mom for permission, and then you're able to work with your dad. I remember when there.
When?
Oh, with Brent. With Brent. Oh, fair enough. Uncle Brent. Okay. Well, and I remember when we had some festival sort of thing over in Pendleton Hall a number of weeks ago. I remember that you were there and helping put some stuff away. Maybe it was after our tableau. Was it after our tableau? The next day? Oh, that's our Christmas show. And the next day we were in school and there were some school kids helping us out, and I thought you helping Uncle Wade put chairs away. Do you remember? Yeah, that's you. That's something you were doing.
No, you.
Well, you were helping me too. But Uncle Wade, remember Uncle Wade was there? Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And the last time we watched Wolverine.
And he brought Rhodey, his dog, with him. Yes, he often does. How about that? Well, so we like doing things, and can you think of one person who you like doing things with? Okay, Brent. You like doing with Brent. That's the one we're fixing on today. That's good. Okay. So you like doing things, and you like doing things with people. Can you think of one person who you like doing things for? Brent. Of course, I should have guessed. That's right. Well, today, all I want to do is tell you guys that the Lord loves it when you do things. Do you realize that? The Lord loves it when you do things. He loves it when you work with your dad. He loves it when you work with, we didn't say your dad. So he loves it when you work with Brent. He loves it when you do things with Brent. And he loves it when you do things for Brent. Okay? He loves those things. Okay? And that's the simple message for today. So what I'm wondering is what you will enjoy doing today. When you go home, I wonder what you're going to enjoy doing.
Well, moving on from that, I'm thinking about things that we can forget. Things that we can forget. What are some things that you forget? Dreams. Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Often they say that if you don't, when you wake up from a dream, you remember really well. If you don't write it down, 5, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours later, it's just gone. It's amazing how fast you forget dreams. What are the kinds of things that we forget? Yeah.
Sometimes I remember, like, sometimes I remember, like, I try, like, we're about to say prayer and I really want to say something to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, and then we start prayer, and then I stop with prayer, and then afterwards I forget for a minute.
You forgot what you wanted to say to your mom? Is that right?
Yeah, like yeah.
Okay. So we forget dreams, we forget what we want to say to our mom. What else do we forget? What are things that we forget? I forget to labor. Okay. That's nice, that's fortunate. I forget. Yeah. Things we forget to do. How about things we forget to do? What do you forget to do? My homework. Hooray! Forgot to do my homework. Anyone else? Yeah.
Switch the laundry.
Switch the laundry. Okay, gets moldy in the old washer. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? What do we forget to do? What do we forget to do?
Taking vitamins and stuff that you're supposed to take without missing a dose.
Okay. Forget to take things that you're supposed to be taking in dosages. Anything else? My goodness, these are so benign. Yes.
Go to sleep.
I forget to go to sleep. Teenagers love that. I forget that. Okay, and I might forget my wife's, our wedding anniversary. Ooh, boy, I really forget. I joke with my wife and I say on the 14th of November, happy birthday, honey. Her birthday's the 15th. But I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay? So things we forget. And how about people? Do you ever forget people? Who's someone you might forget? Yeah?
Isn't so much I forget people, I forget their names.
Okay, forget their names. I'm terrible with names as well. Yeah? Anyone else? People we forget. People we forget. Yeah?
Classmates from
Classmates. Okay. All right. So, there are things that we can forget, and there are people that we can forget. Well, the disciples were average people too, weren't they? And they forgot things as well. And the story we're going to look at today, we're just going to look at a very brief piece of it. They forgot something. You see, there was a big miracle that the Lord did. There were over 4,000 people, 4,000 men, not including women and children, and they were all there and they were hungry. And so the Lord took some loaves of bread from the disciples and a couple of fish, and he blessed them, and he broke the bread, gave it to the disciples, and the few loaves that they had were enough to feed 4,000 or maybe twice as many people. At least 4,000 people. Wow, what an amazing miracle he did. And then soon after that, the Lord was talking with the disciples, and he said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. You know what leaven is? Leaven is yeast. Yeast is something that you put in bread to make it rise, right? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. And the disciples thought, why is he talking with us about bread and leaven? Oh, it must be because we forgot to take bread with us. Oh, okay. So here's where it says that. Here's where it says that. Now when the disciples had come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said to them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And the disciples reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have forgotten to take bread. They forgot something. They forgot to take bread. Okay, so were the disciples people who would forget things? Yeah, sure. Have you ever gotten so busy in a day that you've forgotten to eat food? How many people have gone through a day and forgotten to eat lunch? Or maybe you've forgotten to eat dinner, or maybe you've forgotten both of them. By the time it's about bedtime, you're getting pretty hungry by that time. Sometimes we're just so busy that you forget to eat. So yesterday, my wife left for Indiana, And she called me on from her cell phone on the way, from her Bluetooth, and she said, left me a message. And she said, Lovey, don't forget to stop for lunch today. Because she knew I was going to be working on projects around the house. Easy to forget things, or forget to eat when you are really busy. Well, so we were talking about bread today. And we're talking about things and people that we can forget. And one of the people that no one mentioned that we can forget is the Lord. Right? The Lord. We'll just put him right here next to this bread. We can forget the Lord, or we could say we can forget Jesus Christ, our God. It's very easy to forget the Lord. Okay? So, Israel, the people of Israel were people who tried hard not to forget the Lord. The Lord is there, we said he's always there to help us, and all I need to do is ask him for help. But I can forget to do that. Israel tried very hard not to forget the Lord. Whenever they were going to go into a battle, or whenever they were going to do something really important, or whenever they had a really important decision to make, they would try to remember to consult Yehovah, the Lord. And there is a simple lesson in that for us, and that is that anything we're going to do, or any project that we want to undertake, or any decision that we want to make, or any challenge that may face us, we always have the ability. Don't forget the bread of life. Don't forget the Lord Jesus. Remember to ask him to be with us in the things that we want to accomplish. But, you know what? I'll bet you $1 you will forget the Lord. And to prove that, let me ask the whole crowd a question. I wonder how many people here have never forgotten to ask the Lord to be with them in anything they've ever said, done, thought about, or accomplished. Your whole life, from the time you were a little baby all the way up till now. Show of hands, how many people have never, ever forgotten to ask the Lord? Never, not even once. Never. A lot of bricks in your house in heaven.
Does not want to not Candace not
Does not what count?
Okay.
Sounds like you worked that out with mom, so I'm going to let that rest, okay? So, now here's another question. How many people in this room, show of hands, have forgotten maybe to ask the Lord to be with them just once ever since you were a little baby? Your whole life. Maybe I've forgotten the Lord once. Okay? Well, if nobody's never forgotten him, and nobody has ever not forgotten him, how does that work? Okay, in other words, the point is, probably most of us have forgotten the Lord at one time or another. Will we forget? Yeah, we'll forget. Did the disciples forget to take bread? Yes. That's like us forgetting to tap into the Lord and have him help us come to a place of love in the things that we say and do. Does the Lord want us to do that? Yes, he does. Can we remember the Lord today as we're going forward in the things that we're going to say and do? Can we remember him in our places of work and all the things we're going to say and do this week? We sure can. Let's try to remember the Lord as much as we can. Invite you to bow your heads for a time of prayer. Lord God in heaven, we thank you for eating the bread of life for us. Help us not to forget to take bread. Help us to come to a place of love from you in everything we say and do. And at times when we do forget, we do and we will. Help us simply to remember and turn back to you again. You rise now for our next song.
Our next song is number 144, Shout to the Lord. This is also our song of the month. 144.
accept this free will offering from all of us, let it be a symbol of our willingness to meet people where they are and to walk together as toward heaven. The Lord give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. Amen. Please be seated. Okay, it's now time for our young people to head through the doors that are opening up over there, where you'll meet your teachers and you'll head off to Sunday school. And while they're heading off, I invite you to enjoy the music of the day. We're talking about new beginnings. I like new beginnings. One of the reasons I like about new beginnings is that for me, a new beginning can mean that I've just come from a place in my life where I felt a bit stuck. Maybe something hasn't been working out the way I would hope it would, and I want to do something different. Or maybe that new beginning is a signal to me that something has become a little bit stale or boring or maybe too routine, and I'd like to shake things up a bit. I've been a minister for almost 26 years now, and one of the things I've noticed over those years is that it seems that there are a lot of people who like new beginnings, or at least like the idea of them. So I wonder, for example, how many of you have made some sort of resolution going into the new year? Lots of people make New Year's resolutions. Makes me think of the workout facility where I exercise. On January 2nd, the clientele of the workout facility doubles. And it remains that way for the entire month of January. It's so full in that place that it's difficult to find room on a machine, to get a machine that's open to do your exercise routine. The good news is that by February 1st, half of the clientele has now disappeared, leaving only us regulars there. And this is so true that us regulars during the month of January will say in the locker room, wow, it's really packed out there. And then we chuckle and we say, yeah, but don't worry, by February 1st, we'll be back to normal. So, new beginnings. I know that people like new beginnings. And I know that not just because I see people making New Year's resolutions, but because in being a minister, we are always looking for topics or subjects that people will enjoy or be inspired by or benefit from. And new beginnings seems to be one of the ones that they enjoy. Another reason that people might like new beginnings is because any new beginning, or even the possibility of a new beginning, is something that carries or can carry a sense of hope and promise with it. Making a new beginning, or even the possibility of it, can make us feel like I'm going forward in my life. Things can and even are getting better. So these are some of the reasons why Mac and I decided we wanted to have a topic of new beginnings for our January series. We put our heads together. We said, why don't we highlight some of the tools that the Lord gives us for making new beginnings. So last week, Matt kicked off our series by talking about the balance between figuring things out and trusting the Lord. I thought that message that Matt preached was one of the most effective presentations I've seen him give in the year and a half that he's been with us. It was so good that any of you who weren't here last week, I hope you'll get online to our website and to our YouTube channel and give that message a listen. Our topic today is closely related and somewhat different. It is figuring things out on our own, balanced with including the Lord in decision making. I like figuring things out. I like looking at things. I like understanding how they work. I like piecing things together or tearing things apart and reassembling them so that they will work. And I would guess that some of you in this room enjoy figuring things out as well. If it's not mechanical or organizational stuff that you like figuring out and making work, maybe it's more relational in nature. So I wonder how many of you are people who like to know who other people are, or what they're like, or what makes them tick. I wonder how many of you enjoy connecting different people with one another, or organizing relational type stuff so that people can enjoy themselves, so that relationships can thrive and grow, and so that people and families can be happier together. How many of you are like that? The problem is that figuring things out and deciding what to do and how to respond to challenges is something that can tie us up in knots. I wonder how many of you have had the common experience of waking up in the middle of the night, and as soon as you're awake, you start thinking about something, and you can't get that thing out of your mind. Something that happened yesterday, or something that's coming up tomorrow. If it's something that happened yesterday, then you might be thinking about what people said, or what they did, or what you said, or what you did, or what you didn't say or do. And you're thinking about this thing and trying to figure it out and solve it. So there you are in the middle of the night. You're thinking and you're pensing, and you are churning your bed covers like clothes in a washing machine. And at the same time, you're not able to figure it out completely. You're not able to completely solve it or bring it to resolution, and so you're not able to get back to sleep. There we are in the middle of the night, spinning our wheels and going nowhere. And part of the problem can be that we get to thinking too much on our own steam and not enough with help and input from the Lord. So, in all of these things, what does the Lord have to say? Well, it begins back at the beginning of the book of Genesis, where God created Adam. And not long after he had created Adam, he realized it is not good that this man should be alone. It is not good that any man should be alone. And so he created Eve as a helper comparable to Adam. Now, in the new church, we know that that story isn't just about the literal creation of men and women. It is also symbolic of how the Lord creates two parts in each one of us, our intellectual side and our loving side. The woman that the Lord created symbolizes or symbolically pictures that deep down sense of who we are, of what we care about most, and that life is all our own. The Lord gives us this sense that life is our own, and that means that life doesn't come flowing into us like a pipeline, but rather that life is right here. It's who I am. It's where I start every day. And along with that sense of self-life that the Lord gifts us with comes all of the fun and excitement and exhilaration and even contentment that we feel when we get to figure things out. And when we get things done, and when we see things and relationships grow and thrive. And the Lord wants all of that for us. He wants all of that excitement and that exuberance and that enjoyment of figuring things out and getting them done. In fact, the more deeply loving and wise the angels of heaven are, we're taught in our theology, the more strongly do they feel like they are themselves. They are who they are. My guess is that the more strongly they feel like this is who I am, probably the more they enjoy the sense of figuring things out and accomplishing things. So one of the challenges that we can get into is that when we get so caught up in the enjoyment, the fun of figuring things out and getting things done, that we start to function too much on our own and from ourselves and not enough from the Lord. Basically, we forget to include the Lord in the equation. And so the Lord is careful to caution us in His Word not to get too caught up in our own intelligence apart from the intelligence that He can give us. In the theology of the New Church, there are over 500 entries that talk in terms of our own intelligence, self-intelligence, and our own prudence. And in most of those paragraphs, it's giving us something of a warning not to get caught up too much in that side of the equation. One passage says it this way: there is no such thing as a person's own intelligence or prudence. In other words, true intelligence and true prudence, the ability to figure things out, is something that comes to us from the Lord. And if we try to create that ourselves, we'll tend not to be as successful as the Lord is. Another way that this is talked about in our theology is in terms of reliance on ourselves and reliance on the Lord. So remember the battle of the Amalekites in the book of Exodus, where Moses was going to go up on the hill to oversee the battle. And as long as he held his hands up to heaven and to the Lord, Israel was winning the battle. But as soon as his hands got heavy and they started to let down, the Amalekites started to win. That is a picture of what can happen in our lives when we rely on the Lord to help us, and when we let our hands down and simply forget and try to accomplish things too much from our own selves. One passage in our theology says this, and I'll quote it: "To the degree that self-reliance takes over, or that we become steeped in it, to the same degree we depart from the things of heaven. And to that degree, goodness ceases to be perceptible to us, and truth visible." Interesting. There are other stories in Scripture which demonstrate what happens to us when we try to do things too much on our own without the Lord. That is, without the genuine love and intelligence that the Lord can give us. So Israel went to fight against the giants in Canaan after they at first refused to go. And even after Moses said, "Don't go, because the Lord's not going to be with you this time." They went anyways, and they were defeated. Israel lost the first battle to Ai after one of the people of Israel stole some stuff from Jericho that was supposed to go to the treasury of the Lord. Well, stealing things from the Lord is like us thinking that we can function and figure things out on our own. Or how about the elders of Israel when they made the mistake of making a treaty with the Gibeonites who lived nearby without consulting the Lord? And that got them into a little bit of trouble later on down the road. King Ahaziah in the second book of Kings died an untimely death because he consulted the god of Ekron instead of Yehovah on whether or not he would recover from an injury that he had sustained when he fell through a lattice in his upper room. In the New Testament, the rich young ruler went away sorrowful when Jesus told him that he would have to give up his possessions if he wanted to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's like us having to let go of our own supposed intelligence so that we can be guided by the Lord. And so Jesus said, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains by itself. But if it dies, that is, if we can let go of leading ourselves without the Lord's input and influence, then our lives can bear much fruit. One of the things about all of this is that the Lord understands our situation. Because a sense of self-life is so strong, and because it's really quite important to being who we are and experiencing happiness in our lives, we are bound to slip into states of mind in which we try to figure things out too much on our own. It's something that is sure to happen as surely as nighttime follows day and as winter follows summer. Moses' hands were bound to get heavy as he sat there all day long trying to hold them up. So what can we do if we are in a state of mind where we're thinking and trying to figure things out a little bit too much on our own? What can we do if we're lying awake at night going over and over some scenario again and again in our minds, and we realize I'm thinking about this on my own without the Lord? What can we do if we've just gone through the second half of 2017 and gotten so far down a rabbit hole of our own intelligence that we wonder if we can ever be extricated? Well, one answer to that, one simple answer is make a turn in the road. Remember the Lord and turn back to Him. Open up our hearts and minds to Him once again and welcome His influence and His enlightenment. Give yourself a time each day to bring things that you're concerned about and lay them out before the Lord. Ask Him, first of all, to set aside any distractions of your day or your week. Ask Him to help you set aside any self-centered concerns that have got you agitated. And then ask Him to help you think about things in the most loving and wise ways possible. Lord, will you shine a light into my mind on this thing? Will you help me think in loving ways about X, Y, and Z? If my soul could speak, if your soul could speak the heavenly remnants that the Lord has placed in you ever since you were a little infant, what would that part of you, your best part of you, say to the Lord on this or that part of your life? And then listen for an answer. Notice the new thoughts that start to churn in your mind, or the way that your perception on your own situation starts to shift. Any sincere and humble prayer for help and enlightenment is one that the Lord will answer. Ask, and it will be given to you. One passage on enlightenment that I bumped into a couple months ago says this: when we are in a state of enlightenment, we are then placed in the midst of angels and spirits who, more than others, receive enlightenment from the Lord alone. It's an interesting passage. I think that may be what's happening when we pray for enlightenment and the Lord answers that prayer. He actually lifts our spirit up into association with angels and spirits who are more loving and more wise than us, and a light goes on in our lives. Matt and I are both big believers in prayer. Both of us have experienced the power and benefit of prayer for our own lives, and we hope that all of you can be believers in prayer as well, if you aren't already. Bringing things to the Lord and praying for His help in how to think about them and in working them through is so valuable that I would then invite you to take a prayer challenge. And the prayer challenge would be that you begin each day for the next full month with prayer to the Lord. Don't get started on your day without it. For example, when you're lying awake at night, pensing about something, and you realize, I'm thinking about this on my own without input and influence right now from the Lord. Make a decision for yourself right then and there. I'm not going to think about this anymore until I can bring it to the Lord in the morning. Make a decision to bring anything and everything to the Lord for his input and counsel. Give it a try and see what happens in 1 month's time. It is a prayer that the Lord will answer. Amen. I invite you now to bow your heads for a time of prayer. Lord God, as we get started on this new year, we hear the silent prayers of our hearts. Amen. You rise for our next song.
Our next song is number 104, Let the Love Flow. 104.
service, or also known in the new church as Holy Supper. And in preparation for that, I want to read a passage from our theology. It says, when we are being regenerated, that is, born anew, we become completely different from before and are made new. Once we have been regenerated, therefore, we are called people who have been born again and created anew. At that point, our face and speech remain the same, but not so our mind. The mind is now open toward heaven, and love of the Lord and goodwill toward our neighbor, together with faith, reside in it. When we lay aside our body, our spirit is seen, and is then a visible form of love and goodwill that possesses beauty beyond description. This it may become clear what regenerate people are. That is, people born again or created anew. We are people who are altogether different from before and are new. This is a lifetime process. The bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. They who come to me shall never hunger. The blood of the new covenant which is shed for many for the quieting down of sin. Jesus said, they who believe in me shall never thirst. I invite you to kneel in prayer. Lord God in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity to come to you in regular fashion to lay before you one concern that we have in our lives, some change that we'd like to make for the better, knowing that we can only do so with your help and power. Be with us today in this holy sacrament. Help us to go forward with a new sense of love and faith that can sustain us. Thanks for all you do for us. Lord, save your people and bless your inheritance and feed them and lift them up forever. Please rise. And now come and gather yourselves to the supper of the great God. Please be seated. Bread of God as he comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Which was shed for many for providing down the sea. Now go in peace and may the Lord grant you the petition that you asked of him today. Let you rise for the benediction of those in the Lord's word. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with us all. Amen. Now arise, O Lord, and do your best. You the ark of your strength. Will you remain standing for our closing song?
Our closing song is number 55. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah. 55.
Thank
Some or many of you will remember Joanne Giles. Joanne Giles passed peacefully into the spiritual world a week and a half ago, and that was unbeknownst to nearly all of us. We all know that Joanne was someone who was a very private person, and she successfully kept her own illness that was going to take her out of this world completely private. So it was pretty much of a surprise when we suddenly learned that she was no longer with us. At the same time, she said she didn't feel like she wanted to have a lot of fanfare made around her departure from this world, and so she requested that there not be a memorial service for her. Well, in our pastor's council meeting this past Wednesday, I thought one of the council members had a lovely thought, and that was, well, we may not be having closure for Joanne, but what about closure for ourselves? And might it be possible if we just remind ourselves of Joanne here in our worship service of this Sunday, and maybe just offer a brief prayer on her behalf? So I would like to do that. I thought that was a lovely idea. Why don't we bow our heads for a moment of prayer? Lord God, our Father in heaven, this morning we remember our friend, Joanne Giles, and all of the good that she accomplished for our church community. And as we know that she is rising and waking up in the spiritual world even now, we know that you are with her. We know that you have the best things in store for her. And it's the love and wisdom that is in our hearts for Joanne can be any support to her on the next phase of her journey. And we ask that you take it from our hearts and our minds and direct it toward her. Thanks for this wonderful person in our church community and in our lives. We wish her well on her continued spiritual journey. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pastor's Council. I wanted to then go to our announcements, just to say that two items that are coming up in the fairly near future are our Spiritual Studies Club, which is coming this Friday evening. You can read about that. And then the bishops of our church have a request, or I should say the executive bishop of our church, sort of the head of the highest administrative guy in the church, has requested that since we're going to be electing a new executive bishop in the next year or so, he wants to get counsel from our different church congregations around the world on what qualities we think are most needed for an executive bishop. So we are setting aside Tuesday evening, the 23rd of January. You can read more about it right there. It will be at mine and Ellen's home across the street. Anyone who would like to come and just talk about the position of the next executive bishop and what the qualities are that are needed for that position, please come. As I said, the details are here. We'll also be talking about challenges that we believe the next administration of the new church will face, and just have a conversation about that as well. Finally, and terribly mundane, I'm doing a project with my 3rd and 4th grade kids in the Glenview New Church School, and I need newspaper. I'm making a paper mache Mount Sinai with them. If anyone has a supply of newspaper that they could give to the cause, that would be great. Please talk to me after the service. We are out of time, so parents who have their children here in Sunday school, please, if you would make your way to pick them up immediately, that would be a help. Otherwise, have a great Sunday. Enjoy the playoffs if you're someone who enjoys playoffs. And Sue has something left.
Just to say that on Friday night, the 26th, January 26th, we're having a family fun night. Everyone's invited, young children to 103, let's say.
You got one of those.
And just to see this and bring a dessert and we'll have fun. Family games. Okay?
Indeed. You can read about that in the announcement sheet as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and a great week.